Okay, I'm going to introduce this gentleman. I've known him a long time. Probably goes back to about 68, 69, I think. Not quite sure. But this gentleman probably helped more bands. Next to Bob Philibert, I'd say him and Randy Irwin kept us all living, kept us all going where we didn't have to work a day job. We could just count on these guys. Ozark talent. Oh, and we're passing the bucket too. And but I've known this gentleman a long time on both sides of the fence. He's a good friend, good lawyer, but he's an excellent musician. Played with a lot of people and brought a lot of people notoriety and all what you can ever say. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Barney Naioti. And Kurt Hargis, our interviewer.
Well, we'll tell you that Barney and I reconnected last year. My wife bought his wife's white SUV, and the same time, about a month later, we bought a white SUV from another drummer.
Sorry.
I know, Eddie Bungie, but I can tell you that neither car has missed a beat since we've had it. So.
I was really seriously hoping it hadn't broken before tonight.
Well, I will thank Barney for coming up here and doing this for me. If you don't know, looks like everybody here probably knows Barney as well or better than myself. But Barney Naioti, Barney Nairobi, is a practicing attorney in Branson, Missouri, and a former prosecuting attorney of Taney County, and drummer for Sean Calvin and the Dirty Truth, Steve Smith, and Monkey Business.
Clayman. Sean Clayman.
Clayman. Well, I can't write. And is it Ire and Brimstone?
Ire and Brimstone.
And this is an Irish rock band, and one of my first questions for you is, what's the difference in an Irish rock band and an Ozarks rock band?
The difference?
Yeah.
Well, I guess both have a hillbilly drummer, I suppose. I don't know. You caught me off guard on that one. Yeah, you'd have to ask these guys. I can attest to that.
A little drinkier, maybe? Well, you've been described here to me by a former employee as a nice, clean-cut feller, the best boss, kind and considerate, and a little tight and cheap when it comes to long-distance telephone calls. But they adored you, so.
Kathy, been talking to Kathy.
Maybe. You grew up in Rockaway Beach.
Yeah.
Tell us about Rockaway Beach.
Would it be okay if I introduced a couple people? Or you want me to talk about Rockaway first?
You can do whatever you want to. I've got people down here, and we'll get to them, or you can do it now.
I grew up in Rockaway Beach. Anybody that knows Rockaway Beach now, it's not the same Rockaway Beach. Not even close. Rockaway Beach was what I call a wonderland back in the 50s and 60s. My dad had a small Italian restaurant there, and we had music everywhere. Things were changing. There's you'll find a photograph over there on the counter of an old swing band at the old Hotel Taneycomo in Rockaway Beach circa around 1948, 1950. Things were changing, and bands were coming in like Bob Cuban and the In-Men, Louie and the 7 Days, groups like that, and things started to change. And we had, at any given time, we'd have 3-4 live bands playing in Rockaway Beach all the time in the summers. And from the time I was Easton's age, I would sneak in those places and I knew the back doors and listened to those bands. And lots of influence there. And that was kind of my early influence with music. And my mom, hi Mom, if you're watching the video later, always had music in our home. Yeah, all kinds of music.
Well, what do you think happened to the big bands? Did electric guitar, rock and roll just kill them?
Les Paul. Yeah, I think the times just changed.
A generation got passed by.
Yeah, and I think the big bands, I still love the big bands. They're still out there. You have to look for them, but they're there.
Right.
I think we have one in Springfield. 3, Harry said. We have 3 in Springfield.
Well, what about, you were there obviously in the 60s and there for the riot. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. On the night of the riot, my folks had a restaurant in a little mom-and-pop hotel right on the front street. I was 13 or 14, and I had a .22 rifle. And the guys that were destroying the town, basically, they were burning, starting fires, breaking through windows, throwing trash cans through windows. And I was working for a lady up the street by the name of Sylvia. And you can conjure up from that. And Sylvia came to me and she said, Barney, I think you need to go home. There's some bad stuff happening down the street. There was about 1,000 college kids in town, and they were destroying the town. They had turned over the local cop. They had turned over his car, and it was just absolutely unbelievable. And so I got home, and they hadn't gotten over to my dad's place yet. So I went and got my gun, and I loaded it and went up the top of the hill. And I sat and waited, true story. And I sat and waited, and I thought the first guy that throws a trash can or something through my parents' place is going to get shot. And I sit there about 5 minutes, and pretty soon here come my grandma, and she says, what the hell are you doing out here with that gun? And then here comes my dad, and he says, get your ass back in the house right now. And that was the end of that. And the next day, by the end of that night, there were about 75 law enforcement officers, highway patrol, people from all over wherever they could get to Rockaway as quickly as possible, and they arrested everybody. The next day, the city was destroyed, and that was kind of the start of the end for Rockaway Beach as we knew it back then. It was a magical place at the time. People came from all over the country. My dad came across after he got out of the service from New York, and intentionally headed to California and decided with him and his buddies they were going to make a stopover in Rockaway Beach to see the fun. And, well, here I am.
What kind of music was in your house when you grew up? You say there was music there.
Mom had, and my dad, but they had every kind of, everything from Sinatra to Dean Martin to, everything you can imagine, all the big bands, Harry James and all the big bands. It was all good. And Miles Davis. I mean, she listened to a lot. I try to envision what my parents thought the first time they heard booming from my room the Purple Haze. Yeah, and they were gracious about it.
They thought they might have lost you a little bit or something.
Yeah, they were gracious about it. Now my mom will listen to everything. She's 95. She couldn't make it here tonight, but anyway.
What about your family? Your son's a musician. And
my son Nick is, and I wish he could be here. He lives in Iowa, but Nick has graduated from Full Sail, and he is he's got 6 CDs out. He's performed twice on national TV. Don't know that he's made any money doing it yet, but he's performed in clubs in every state in the continental United States. So he, so far he's really enjoyed the music and just done a great job. He writes and produces, and
he's been on TV.
He's been on TV on Fox. They had a band called the Zombie Bazooka Patrol. Right, not long after he got out of high school, and they were on Fox national TV on Fox. When he called me and told me I couldn't, I didn't believe it. I said, nah. And he was. He was on Fox, America's Best Bands. And they came in like fourth, and I thought it was fun.
Well, tell me about your whole family, your wife and your kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one of my kids. The other one's sitting right here. Yeah. She's in the process right now of teaching me. This is Heather and her family, and these are my two grandsons, Hayden and Easton, and they're friends. And she's trying to teach me now not to be a music snob. So yeah. And back here in the back is my other son, Stephen, Dr. Holland, and his fiancee, Dr. Harmon, and my lovely wife, who I promised I wouldn't talk about tonight. So I'll just say, she told me if I talk about her, I'll have to get another ride home. So I'll just say, in 2 months, happy 20th anniversary. Yeah. And she's been great to support all my music. She puts up with the drums up in the, she helped me fix up my man cave so I could go practice the drums and she could still have a life. So my sister, Kathy Devine, and her husband, Dr. Devine, in the back, and then my brother-in-law, Rick, and his lovely wife, Barb, who makes the best chocolate cake you've ever tasted. Yeah, did I get everybody? Heather, did I?
Well, what about when you first started? You started playing guitar.
Well, whenever I was just in junior high, my folks bought me a Fender Mustang. Yeah. I had a little tiny Ampeg amp. And if that was, my parents were smart, and they knew exactly how to motivate me to make grades. And so I would come home with a grade card, and my mom would say, you got a D, and my dad would say, put the guitar in the closet. And I would be total panic. And so over the years, I played the guitar. I played guitar with a whole lot of these bands over here. I was not a guitar player. I just wasn't. And so, and I played the trombone back then from all the high school marching bands and all that stuff. So I kind of parlayed that into some of the horn section groups that we had back in the day. Yeah.
Well, tell me about, you mentioned in a prayer meeting or something, playing this other guy's guitar when no one was looking, maybe.
My grandfather on my mother's side was a Pentecostal preacher, and when I was little, I'd go to these meetings with him, and it was really my first vision of what I really perceived to be just a touch of insanity. And I mean, they would just be, I don't even know how to say it. They'd be wild. And they'd get started, and they'd get the fever pitch going with prayer meeting, and they'd get to rocking and rolling, and then they all kind of go into trance, and they'd get down and start this. And Brother Teague, because my grandpa was a preacher, I got to sit up in where the music was. And Brother Teague had a electric guitar. This was way before I got my Fender Mustang. And so whenever they would start the heavy-duty praying, he would turn the amp down, and they'd all I'd get into this for about a minute, and then I'd check around, make sure everybody was deep into the trance, and then I'd pick up his guitar and just mess with it until this would go on for 20, 30 minutes. And, I'd play around, and then I could kind of tell when the decibel level was starting to come down a little bit, and they were, getting close to the 10 minutes to the end, of the. So I would put the guitar back and get back in the position, and there you go. So, but it was pretty cool because Brother Teague was a fabulous guitar player, not nearly as good as some of the guys I play with now. Yeah, but anyway.
So you learned from him a little bit too.
I didn't learn nothing from him other than just the influence of that, how cool it was to see that electric guitar and hear him. He was a great player.
Well, your first band, was it public band or garage band type thing?
Both.
Yeah.
We had a little band in Rockaway Beach, with Maud is here, and her brother Bill Fulford played with me, and a guy named George Snykart from Rockaway, and then we started incorporating some guys from Springfield. We brought in Bob Bridges to play drums, and Bobby Powell came in one of our early bands, and we played dances around. A couple of pictures of those bands over there. One was called, the first one was King George and the Cavaliers, Georgie Snykart's band, and then the next one was the Stags, and we kind of stole that from a band in Springfield that was called Stags. And then we had the Mind Expansion Corporation. Yeah. And there's a picture of that over there, and that was a pretty hip band, and we played a lot for the Branson Youth Council dances and had a lot of fun. And then it progressed from there.
So you started college in '68.
I graduated high school in '68, couldn't get into Drury because my grades weren't good enough in undergrad, in high school. So my parents sent me up to Southwest Baptist. I had no idea what I was getting ready to get into there, but we changed a lot of hearts there. We promptly started a rock band on campus, and within the first 2 months I was called into the dean's office and informed that this is sinful, you're not supposed to do this. And I said, well, how about if we take it off campus? And they said it'd be okay. So we go about a mile off campus, rent the Legion Hall, and have a Saturday night dance, and everybody from the campus was over there. So I got 3 months later, I get called back in, and this sinful band you're doing is just, I said, I won't tell you what I said. It was vulgar. We kept playing all the way through college, and I graduated there in '72. And during my last year in college, I had the band called Lead Hill, and that was the band that overall was probably the most popular band we ever had. Not the best, but probably the most popular. We had more gigs than I knew what to do with, literally. So I decided my senior year, I thought, I can parlay some of these and pass some of these gigs to some of the Springfield bands and maybe make a little something on it. So we started booking. And that was kind of the seed that got planted for the booking agency. After I graduated, we immediately started up Ozark Talent Management.
I read where Lead Hill played with Ides of March, Vanilla Fudge, Smith, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Back then,
where was that?
Shrine Mosque.
Okay.
Back then, local bands could get on a billing with a major national band, and we were on the billing with Vanilla Fudge, the #1 group in the country at the time. They had the #1 song, and we played backup. May I tell an embarrassing story?
Well, I think we want you to, don't we?
So, the Shrine Mosque was full. I was playing the trombone, and I would get excited, and we'd dance around. We were really, really cool. And we were playing some Chicago song, I think, and I'm playing the trombone, and away goes the slide. And this is a true story. And I'm sitting there going, oh, my God. And we weren't halfway through our set, and fortunately some kind people found it, brought it back up to me. Well, if you know anything about a trombone slide, they're delicate. All you got to do is tap them, and it's dented, and it's no good. And I thought, this will never play. So I put it back on, and it played barely, but we got through the show. So that was one of my great embarrassing moments.
What other booking agencies were there?
We had
during this time?
at the time Bob Filbert, and I still think Bob in kind and good ways. I liked Bob, but no, I'm not going to go there with that story. I'm not going to do that. There was another agency in town called Mid-American Artists. They didn't stay around too long after Ozark Talent got started. Just leave it at that.
Well, you started Ozark Talent with Randy Irwin, right?
Randy Irwin and he played trumpet with me in the band. And Uncle Wally was the band by then we had. It was a 9-piece horn band. And Randy played, and let's see, I think Pat was Pat was not in that band. Parnell had been in all my previous bands, but he wasn't in this one. But Randy played with me in a group called Uncle Wally, and that was Mark Morton and Mush Morton, his brother Mike, who passed away, and David Evans, to call him Dottie. And yeah.
Randy Irwin's still in the business, right?
Randy left. We ran the agency for about 8 years. Randy left after about 4 and went with a major regional agency in Missoula, Montana, and still there, I think. Booking. He's in Denver. Yeah, he did exactly what he wanted to do in life, which was go book major artists, and I really didn't want to. I did not want to leave Springfield and Taney County. I was too attached to my friends in the creeks, and so I stayed, bought him out, ran the agency for about another 4 years, and sold it in around 1980 to an agent out of Joplin, a guy by the name of Jerry Henry, and it lasted. Jerry didn't make it too long, but it was hard work. Yeah, and so Kathy Bright was our secretary, and yeah, and I would say, hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple of days, and Kathy would say, enjoy the creek. She knew how to book the bands by then, so yeah.
He'd come out of his office after getting a phone call from one of his buddies and raise his hands up in the air and he'd go, I'm out of here, creek's up. And he looked so cute walking out.
Can't imagine that, can you? No.
Well, the band Shadow Rock played at the Ivanhoe in New Orleans.
We followed.
Talk a little bit there.
Yeah, thank you. Shadow Rock was a really good band. Keith Thurman was our singer, and I've got a little clip to play here for you in a minute if Kurt lets me. But he's director of Shepherd of the Hills play now, but he was one of the very best singers that ever came out of this area. And we followed Granny's. We got a call from Granny's, and they said, you guys need to come down and play the Ivanhoe Lounge in New Orleans. So we booked, and we actually did 2 stints down there, and had a great time. It was a wonderful experience. The first week we were there, I got a picture over there to prove this, because nobody believed a lawyer, but First few nights we were there, we're standing in the corner, and somebody says, hey, there's Led Zeppelin there. They're in town, and they're right there. Well, we went over and struck up a conversation, and what was the singer's name?
Robert Plant.
Robert Plant. Plant was not very friendly. He wasn't interested, but Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones were very interested, and they said, we chatted with him and said, would you like to come in and play? And so we got a picture of Jimmy Page playing with our band. We were kind of proud of that. And John Paul Jones, technically bass player with Zeppelin, but he was learning to play the keyboards. And David Evans had a Hammond B3 organ. And so he came in 3 nights in a row, and he did not want to be announced. And he'd just sneak in and kind of come up through the back line of the stage and sit in, and we'd all of a sudden have another organ going back there. So that was pretty cool. New Orleans was a pretty neat experience, and we traveled with that band all over. We had a booking agent out of Atlanta we hooked up with, and we traveled all up the eastern coast, Florida, and all up the eastern seaboard, and to Hyannisport, Massachusetts, and Atlanta. And that band played all over the place.
So you read music and write charts, right?
No. I had to read music through, in the high school bands and the college bands, and I write rudimentary charts, just very basic for, 4 measures, rest, crash here, 4x4 on the bass.
Good.
But I do write them on music scales, so they do look like music, and that way I can actually walk in and pretend that I'm writing music. So
It makes you feel good about it.
Yeah.
Well, what about, we've got a couple of guys here that were your partners in Fifth Season Productions.
Yeah. Tim Burrows and Ray Jones. These guys helped us with Fifth Season. This was about midway through the Ozark Talent time, and we booked concerts. We had lots and lots of concerts we booked. In fact, one of the first ones was ZZ Top. It was one of their first shows that they had in Springfield. And when Vicki and I were walking in tonight, I looked ahead and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "That's Billy Gibbons. He got out of his bus. He was just walking into this hotel." And she said, "You going to go talk to him?" I said, "No. I got time." But anyway, that was pretty cool. We booked. We had amazing rhythm aces, Vassar Clements. We had the Daredevils. We had, I don't know, I got a whole list of them over there. We booked a lot of shows. Didn't make any money, but we booked a lot of shows.
Were they mostly here in this area, in Springfield?
Springfield area. Yep. Some in Arkansas, Little Rock and around, yeah.
Well, let's see, you bought another company in Fayetteville.
We bought out a small.
Sold it out. Did you consider music as a profession about this time, or was it kind of toward the end of when you sold your booking agencies? Did you have other thoughts in mind?
And I apologize for interrupting you. I'm nervous. That was as a judge. Where's my judge friend? Where'd he go? Oh, as the judge might say, that was a compound question. Yeah. After around the end of Ozark Town, around the 80s, the disco invasion, I call it, was coming in, and there was less a real decline in work for local bands that for years played one-nighters everywhere and always. And so things were slowing down for the booking agency, and I decided to sell it. Sold it to the guy in Joplin, and took a job in Branson at the telephone company in sales and marketing. Worked there exactly 10 years to the day. And while I was there, I had to go back to school because my grades coming out of Southwest Baptist, weren't quite law school qualified. So I went back while I was at the phone company and took a bunch of classes and got my grades up, and then went and aced the entrance exam and got into law school in 1980. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about right.
Well, you started a new band, Midlife Crisis. Is this kind of say it all?
Midlife Crisis? What? I interrupt you again?
No, you're all right.
Midlife Crisis was based out of Branson, and that was one of our best bands and one of our most popular. It was together for off and on different versions of it, about 15 years. And I actually had that band the whole time I was working at the telephone company. So I worked there, my day job, and then played in the band. And I've got a little something for you, if I may.
Sure. This is when you started playing drums, right?
Well, Midlife Crisis needed a drummer, and I needed to be a drummer because I wasn't any good with the guitar or the trombone. So I said, I want to play the drums, and I know I'll be good. I'm still working on it really hard, Kevin. Yeah, you're way the shit better than me, buddy. Yeah, and don't even try to argue with that. By the way, guys, if you ever get a chance, this is Kevin Lyons over here with Sister Lucille. Listen, this is the new group in Springfield. You guys should be proud of this CD. These guys are fabulous. This is a great CD, and I had to do that. So you need to get it and listen to it. They just finished this up, and they are a terrific, really highly talented bunch of guys. Great CD. But you know Midlife Crisis.
Seen him play a few times.
You did? Let's see. Now, this is where the real challenge comes in for me here, because I'm not sure this is going to work.
You should get one of your grandsons to show you.
So that's a little dab of midlife crisis. That was our first one, and that was a guy by the name of Burt Jones. That was actually a live studio recording that we did in Burt's studio. This is where I really struggle with this thing. I had another a little bit later version of, going back to Shadow Rock, if I may. Same singer, Keith. It had cut 3 horn players out of Joplin. Mark Morton played drums, not the Mark Morton from Branson, but the one that from Springfield that had the rock shop. And Stevie Richardson played bass with us for a while. So this one Mike Bungie engineered up over here at American Artists, and it was pretty cool, I thought. You might recognize these. You might recognize this song. That was actually live in the studio for the most part, I think. As I recall,
It sounded like you learned how to play drums.
I did.
Who was the singer, the girl?
Keith Thurman.
Was that Keith?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wayne Carson picked him up and wanted to promote him as Keith James, and we've got a record over there that we cut at the studio over here, that Huey Walpole song called Sunshine Woman, and that was going to be the first big hit, which of course wasn't going to happen. But Wayne, and a lot of you here are obviously well familiar with Wayne Carson. He wrote the letter for the Box Tops and tons of music. He was probably the most successful songwriter ever to come out of Springfield. And Cy Simon was his, I call it producer. I don't know, is that right? Anyway, Cy and Wayne had they kind of had the grasp on the music scene really coming out of Springfield. They were really bigger here than just about anyone in terms of success within the music field outside this area. But they were going to take Keith in as an artist and promote him and make him a big name. So the first thing they did was change his name to Keith James. Well, his name was Keith Thurman, so he didn't like that. And he said, no, I don't think so. But you'll see on the record it's Keith, Sunshine Woman featuring Keith James. And so that little relationship didn't last very long, and we took off and went on their tour with our band, and then that was kind of the end of that. Yeah.
What inspired you to go into law or into
I
law
had
school?
to go into the practice of law to support my music habit. And I wanted to get a good wife. I knew she wasn't going to marry no damn musician. Sorry, kids. I'm sorry, I'll watch my language. Yeah, but she didn't really know until later. She knew I was a lawyer, but I kind of held back on the musician part until later and kind of slipped that in, Say, honey, go upstairs and look in that room, and there's some drums up there. Yeah.
You graduated when?
Graduated in 92.
And you were, did you just right then run for prosecuting attorney of Candy County?
I came back, I practiced a year in Kansas City, came back to Taney County and decided to run for prosecuting attorney to jumpstart my law career. And I won that election, and I thought I knew everybody. I thought this is going to be a landslide. I know everybody in this county. I'm going to win this thing hands down. I won by 7 votes. On Rodney Daniels had a recount, and I still had my 7 votes. So I was, yeah. So I did that for a while and decided to go out into private practice, and I've been doing that ever since. Vicki and I have a law practice in Branson. She runs the office and keeps me going, and I do the courtroom stuff, and we've had a really good run. The career has been very good to me, and throughout the entire time, the music has always been there. The bands have always been there.
How long were you prosecutor?
4 years.
Okay. Yeah. Is that, you said you did that kind of jumpstart your career. Is that kind of a normal progression?
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. What kind of cases did you handle, or do you handle now?
It's confidential. Oh, well, I'll give you a hint, okay? Somebody here is going to know the answer to this. Not looking at you. So I'm going to ask if anybody knows what my motto is for my law practice. And this will give you a little bit of an idea of the answer to that question, what I do. And I'll start with the first part. The law office of Barney Naioti.
Keeping musicians out of jail for over 20 years.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah. This is my band leader, one of them. The other one's sitting back there. Yeah, Steve, you are the band leader. And Sean gave me the a golden opportunity about 7 years ago to learn to play the drums and play blues the way it ought to be played. And I kind of had to lie to him. When I went for the audition, he said, "Barney, do you know how to shuffle?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And so he hired me, and I quick ran home, and I got all my Zorro instruction booklets out and started learning how to shuffle. So we've been shuffling. I've been shuffling with Sean and Brandy. Brandy is our fabulous vocalist, the best. And I told you, if you weren't here tonight, what I would do. And so it's just been a joy. Playing with these guys, and I can't say enough. Sean's just the best guy I've ever had to play with. Really, just I'll never forget. We played a gig, and back in the day, everybody was. You never knew who was going to be honest and who was going to be a crooked. In the music business, and can't imagine that in the law business. But we played a gig one night, some little smoky bar, and we were supposed to make $300. And after the gig, I saw Sean go over to the club owner and hand him back a $100 bill. And he said, "You gave me $400. We only contracted for $3." And I said, "I like this guy." Yeah. I'm playing with. Could I play a little? Something, Brandy, would that be okay with you?
I have no idea what you're about to play, but yeah.
Oh, it's pretty bad. It's the one in that really smoky bar, This is live at the about a year ago, I think. At the Riff, I think. I'm not sure. And it's not a very good recording, by the way. None of this audio. I've taken all this stuff, mostly put a little Roland recorder out in front and just recorded off the stage. So it's not very good, but you'll get the point. This is Sean and Brandy and I and Winston Blair. Maybe.
And I
There you go, Brandy. Yeah. First one they clap for. Yeah. Hi, Rick. Hi, Boyd. Another band I'm playing with right now, I'm really proud of, is Steve Smith and Monkey Business. I was really honored to get asked to play in that band, and it's Steve and I and Sean and Dave Milligan. I know some of you guys know Dave from Branson. He played with the Presleys for years. Should I tell my story? I probably shouldn't.
Do.
Well, do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, we have music, what do they call them in Branson? The awards? The awards. In Branson, if you play in a music show down there, you can get an award if you're nice to the right people, and it may have some relationship to your ability to play the instrument. But anyway, when Dave, our bass player, was playing with this particular show, I won't mention the name of the show, they had an elderly gentleman that played the bass on that show, and that elderly gentleman won the next year in the award ceremony. He won Bass Player of the Year. Well, we never thought anything about it, and we were playing with Dave one night, and he was talking to us, and he was saying, and then a couple years later, Dave got nominated for Bass Player of the Year for real. And he says, well, you know, I won Bass Player of the Year a couple years ago, but they really gave it to the other guy because I would always be behind the stage, behind the curtain, playing, and they'd always have him turned off. That's a true story. I swear to God. Yeah, I did not mention any names. I did not mention the name of a show, and that's that.
Well, that's show business, huh?
Yes, it is.
Well, what old song from back in your past do you still love to play?
Well, these guys are going to get up and walk out. Sean, what's my favorite song? No, he can't say it. No, and you got to pay him $20 to play it.
It's Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, I still just love Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah, and Heather got me tuned in the other day to what's her name? Miranda. That's her favorite artist, and Heather is Miranda's number one fan. But she just did a new arrangement of "Fooled Around and Fell in Love," the old Elvin Bishop song, and that's one of the songs I want played at my funeral if I ever die or if I ever have a funeral. And it's just that's one of the greatest songs, that Elvin Bishop song, and Miranda's version of it. If you watch the video of that and watch those women singing that song, you will die. I mean, it will make you cry. It's so good. Yeah. So anyway.
On a personal level, hobbies?
What was your question?
Fish, cycle. What do you do?
What do I do?
Shoot skeet. What do you do?
No,
on your time off.
Well, I give Vicki a list and say, what am I doing today? I do the yard. I love to cook. I cooked for these guys. Cooked them a big dinner last night. Pretty good, huh? Yeah, I cooked them a whole beef tenderloin. And, yeah, so Vicki and I like to travel and just, things that people do.
All right. Well, what's the coolest thing that's happened in your life so far that nobody knows about?
Oh, absolutely, marrying my wife.
Nobody knows about that.
Well, no, I just was going to, that's a compound question. I'm just answering the first half.
Well, what's the next half?
What nobody knows about. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about music in Branson, Barney.
Do we have to?
Yes. You're there, and you got your finger on the pulse. We've seen it come and go, and it's come around, and it's gone back around again. And what is going to go on down there with Johnny Morris, with all these golf courses and probably PGA events and a lot of people from out of state? Are they going to come still for music, or is it for outdoor adventure from here forward, do you think?
I know just enough about the music business in Branson. I represent clients who are mostly charged with DWIs, and that's most of my contact with the music industry in Branson. But with that said, Branson is diluted with poor quality shows, they're everywhere, and it's kind of sad. And the musicians can't make any money, and the people paying them, I don't think are fair to the musicians. I have a close friend that plays in the band with Sean and I, who was making $50 a night for a show and having to do a 1099, pay his own taxes out of that. And I was like, and they said, he said, well, they tell me I'm a contract employee. I said, you're not a contract employee. Not if they tell you when to be and where to be there and what to play. You're not a contract employee. And so I don't know the future of the music business in Branson. I hope it does great. I'd love to see a more vibrant local music. These guys, Todd and Sam and Mike, these guys play all the time down there in different little bars and places. And, I'd like to see a more vibrant local music scene in Branson where the, guys like myself could go out there and, play and make a little something for doing it.
Well, the two that started it all, the Presleys and Ballknobbers, they're the last ones left of the locals, right? That have theaters. I don't know. The Ballknobbers are pretty much, I don't know that there's an original member left in that group. I'm not sure, but right. I just don't know, honestly. Well, Barney, how do you want to be remembered?
Damn.
Like tomorrow and...
Let's see. Damn, that's a tough one.
Stand up and show us.
Well...
Just take your time.
Thank you. He was really a pretty average musician and a pretty decent guy, but, he could cook a hell of a mean beef tenderloin. I don't know. Just, how does everybody want to be remembered? You want to be remembered for being a decent person, to help people and to treat people right and be honest and don't cheat people. Too much of that goes on out there. Have fun. Have music in your home. Music creates our memories. If you think of a memory, you think of music. When you're riding down the road in Rockaway Beach, you think of, wow, that was Wipeout playing down there on the dance pavilion, or whatever, Wooly Bully. That was our number one song in 1965. So I was making fun of recently with Heather of some current pop country lyrics, and I put something on Facebook, and beer on a plane or something. I was being a snob, and she sends back and she says, your kids and your grandkids love that music. And I thought, oh. So I thought back to 1965, and I thought, well, what was the music I was really digging then? And the lyrics to that were, well, when Hattie met Mattie, and a thing they saw, I can't remember the words, said, da-da-da, it's a woolly bully. Those were our lyrics. Our songs were much more sophisticated. Yeah. Tommy Kangaroo Down Sport. I mean, that was an actual hit. Tommy Kangaroo Down Sport. Anybody remember that? Rolf something. Yeah. Great song. Yeah. On Wolverton Mountain. Yeah. And you should hear her sing "Ode to Billy Joe." No. It's what's the other one? No. I'm sorry. Boots Are Made for Walking. You should hear her sing, "These boots are made for walking." Yeah. And I thought, when she told me we were going to do that, I thought, oh. And we do that every time, and everybody loves it. It's a favorite song of the night. These boots are made for walking. Yeah, everybody loves it.
Barney, I'm getting a rap sign back there. So.
Oh no, I'm just getting started.
I know, but what do you want me to ask you? Do you want me to ask you a question that I haven't asked you?
I think we've covered it. I'm just grateful for everyone coming, all my good friends, my family. Thank you so much for being here. These guys come up from Branson, and you guys come from all over, and I'm just very grateful. And
we're going to take some questions from y'all if you got
oh no, not the
some inquiries here. It's,
Steve, let's do my. I got to do my band leader first.
You can
Steve?
interrogate the prosecutor here.
I'm not the band leader, but is it true that you have learned to sing? Wait a minute.
Oh God.
Wait. Is it true that you have learned to sing?
Singing is a very relative thing. It's a very relative term. We've heard some singers tonight. Yes. My dear band leader, Steve Smith, when I hooked up with his band, now, back in about when the Parnell and the Fulford days, back in the day, somewhere around the mid-'70s, they took my microphone away. And they said, no more, I would sing on a song called Eli's Coming by, I think it was Three Dog Night, and I'd sing, oh, and they said, we're taking your mic. I think before that they just turned it off, but Pat Parnell said, this has got to go. So I didn't sing for years, and then when I joined Monkey Business with Steve, and there's a picture of the band over there on the end, he said, you're going to sing. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm a drummer. I don't sing. He said, you're going to sing. Here's your mic. I'll tell you your part. And I said, well, give me a simple part. And he did, and I sang it. And I said, how do I get used to this? So he made me a CD. I still have it in my truck. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I thought, yeah. It's been a dreadful experience, Steve.
Yeah, what were the main challenges of dealing with booking bands?
A couple of them are dead. They're in those pictures over here. Yeah. Just, getting people, the musicians at the time, to be responsible and show up for the gigs on time and do what they needed to do. And we had bands. Boyd had a band. Rick had a band back then. These guys were super dependable. We could book these guys, and they were there. They were playing. Steve had a band. Others, not so much.
If you could parachute back into a certain year and a certain band, what was your favorite era, favorite band?
Right now, Sean Clavin and the Dirty Truth. Yeah. But I will tell you, it's very, very close call, Steve. I mean, it's like, 41. Yeah.
Okay, Barn, we've glossed over your floating career. I want to know your most embarrassing moment on the river.
My most embarrassing moment on the river was when my buddy from Florida, Kim Garbarino, and my pal Tom Schaefer and Bill Jennings and I, we were all floating, and we were coming around a curve on this creek, one of the local streams, and the Parnell brothers had gone out ahead, and we'd kind of lost track of them. And as we come around the curve, somebody yells, "Double harvest moon!" And the Parnell brothers, as we came around that curve, introduced us to what is commonly known on the river as a double harvest moon. Thank you, Todd. That was one of your finest moments. Yeah. Should know better than to ask me a question. I have a picture of it, by the way. The first time I sent it off to have it scanned, they sent it back and said, we won't scan nasty pictures. Second time they did. Yeah. Don't cross me.
Any other questions? If not, Barney, we certainly want to thank you so much for sharing part of your life with us.
One final thing, if I may.
Please do.
One final thing, if I may. Over here on the table, I have three notebooks. The one on the far left is a whole bunch of bands we used to book in Ozark Talent. You'll see some people you know there. The one in the center is just some fun stuff that I put together, including some of what we've been talking about. And the one on the right is some articles like of the old Half a Hill and some of the concerts around town. So I invite you to take a look at that stuff if you have time. And thank you all so much. I'm so proud and grateful you came. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Kurt for being the interviewer. Don't forget, next month, dedication to Benny Mahan. Have a safe drive home.